All right, now I'm going to show how to generate a SharePoint list or a list in a SharePoint site. So Microsoft Lists allows you to do a list just like you would in SharePoint, except it's kind of like OneDrive where it's just your list. So first we're going to, sorry, just got a message I was sending back. First we're going to go to Site Contents on my SharePoint site, and that'll show me all of my document libraries, which I just made a different video on how to make document libraries and why you do that. And then scrolling down, it'll show me all of my lists as well. So let's look at one of these lists. I'm just going to open up a really basic one. This is a list of DMEs. There's 6 districts and their DME in that district. So 2 columns is all and 6 rows. So again, super easy list. Let me go back to the site contents, and I'll show a little more complicated one. Let's do 3-edge bearing test. So this is a test we perform, and we do it at a location on a day. It complies or it doesn't comply. So this is a yes/no type column, and then there's different criteria or different data points, I guess you might say, for each test. So it's a little more complicated here, and there's columns in here like the pass/fail that do calculations. So based on the size and the required load and all that, it will tell you if it passes or fails. So a little bit more complicated, a little bit more like a spreadsheet, this one is. But these lists work better than spreadsheets in a lot of ways because you can access them really easily from other programs, and they're not individual files. So if I was keeping track of this on a spreadsheet, I would have a file that I would have to then navigate to and open up, which would require Excel or some other spreadsheet program to open it up. This I can just get this whole data set. I can filter it down to what I'm looking for and pull out the values that I need. So that's the advantage of the lists over having it in a spreadsheet. So let's talk about how to make the lists. So site contents, and then I want a new list. There's a couple different options here. If I wanted, let's say that I wanted to do another test similar to the 3-edge bearing test, I could start from that list. It would make me a new list, but it would be no data in it. Blank list gives me a list with 1 column, and from Excel gives me a list based on Excel's columns. So let's start with blank list first. I'm just going to type in demo list 1, and I don't want that in my sidebar navigation, so I'm going to uncheck that and create. So it gives me a list next with 1 column, and that will be the title column. This column is very specific. It is a single line of text, and it is keyed, indexed. I'm not sure what the proper IT term is, but you cannot delete this column. You can rename it and use it for other things, but it's good to kind of like think about maybe how you unique values that you want. It doesn't have to be unique, which is another weirdness about this column, but like things that you might want to use as a reference and then use it first. So if this is a test that's always being done at a factory, then maybe your factory name is here. If this is something about a person, maybe the person's name's here. Some lists we have what's called a sender's number, which is a unique number that we send stuff into the lab with. So I've used the title column for that. So just kind of think about that ahead of time. Just realize you can't delete it. It's always going to show up. And then the name here you can rename. Column settings, rename, and let's call it location. So I can rename it, but in different situations, in different programs, it's still going to show up as title. So pretty important that you are aware of the functionality of this. For a long time, I tried to just not use the column, and I'd just hide it and not use it, but then it would still pop up in forms when it asked me to fill out stuff. So then that just creates confusion. Anyway, so that's the way that given column works. I'm just going to throw some other columns in here. Let's call the second one a date column, and I'm going to label it when and date and time. Maybe I want to include time. Friendly format, that's like the Friday, September 16th, kind of all typed out. I don't want to use that. Default value I want right now, and you can also do some other things in here. So for each different type of column, you can do different things. So let's say this one, I want a choice. I can say, I don't know, good, okay, and bad. And I want that to be a drop down. The default value, I mean, it could, but I don't want to, so I choose none. And can values be added manually? That's like if it's not good, okay, or bad, can they put something else in there ad hoc? You can do that here. Just keep in mind that when you get a lot of values, it makes it harder to filter. If I wanted to filter on all of them that are good, I can do that, but I can't filter on, well, almost good or whatever, unless they're always using that same thing. But if it gets to be a bunch of values, the filters get to be a mess. Forgot to name it, which is the little red star, so it shows it's required. And then I want to do real quick, I'm not sure what it's called, lookup. So I want to look up a county. And the source, I have a list that is counties. And what in that list, what column do I want to use? I want to use the county column. And then I want to add another list, or sorry, I want to drag data in with the district. So for every county, it belongs in a district. And so when we choose that county, I want it to bring in the district with it. So another way you can use a list where if you had your counties in Excel, not as easy to do. All right, so now I have a list. I can add items to the list. So in document libraries, you put files in them. In lists, you put items in them. So the file and the item is important when we get into Power Automate and talk about how to use that and I guess the little cards that go in there. All right, so let's make one location. I don't know, for some reason Pine Lake popped in my head, so I'm going to put that in there. It puts in today by default. I could override that if I wanted to. The condition was good. The county was Boone, and save. So you see when I chose Boone, that's in District 1. Let's do another one. I'm not even sure I know where Pine Lake is. I do know where Twin Lakes is. And that is in Calhoun County, right? Yeah. And save that, and now it's in District 3. So I showed the DME districts or DME list that I had earlier, and it's a district and who the DME is. So now I could be in an automation. I could say, oh, we're in District 3 now. Let's go see who the DME in District 3 is and send an email to them. And so that would send an email up to Alex right now. And then when they hire a DME in District 3, I can go in and change that in my DMEs list. And then next time I do a report for District 3, it would send it to the new DME up there. So that's kind of a preview of how that is helpful to keep items like DMEs in a list, and then how you can choose something that you know, like Calhoun County, and have it pull in the district that you may not know. District's a pretty easy one, but there's a lot of other examples that would work in. Okay, so real quick, I need to do another list now, showing you how to do it in Excel. So first of all, I'm going to go back to site contents over on the left. And I'm going to go into my demo document library that I made in my last video. So in here, I'm going to go new and Excel. And let's see, what did I do? Location, date, I can't remember, status or something like that. Doesn't matter, I guess. County, and I'll choose district, but I'm not sure if this is going to work. So I like to start lists in Excel because I can just type them out like this. I don't have to add column, format the whole column, set everything up, and then go to the next column. And a lot of times you end up just having it in an Excel list anyway. So the thing with starting with Excel is it has to be in a table. So even if you have an existing list, make it into a table first, and then you'll have that. So let me just put in Clear Lake, and is it equals today? Is that how it works in Excel? Oh, I didn't expect that to happen. I probably don't want to do that. Okay was a status. It's not the right county, but oh well. So we'll save that. It's saved because it's in SharePoint. So every time you make a change, it's automatically saved. Beauty of SharePoint. And I'll close out Excel. All right. So now I have. Oops, I should have named it differently while I was in there. I'll rename it to Demo Data 2. And now if I go back into site contents and under lists, I will see my demo demo list 1. I'm going to go new list from Excel, and let's see, I need to go to the right document library, and you could also upload this if you had it on. And now it's giving me some relationships to make. So Clear Lake, what is it? That's the title column. I'm gonna leave it in the title column, and date is date and time. Status is going to be a choice. I can't remember. This one is going to be a lookup. Ooh, I can't do lookups from here, so that's something to note, right? I can import it as a single line of text, but I want this to be a lookup column eventually. So now I really don't even care what the rest of these are, but if this was always a number, I would choose number. So next, demo data 2, I don't want to show it in site navigation, create the list. And now we have our new list with the data in it from the table. It looks like it puts blanks in there. I didn't realize that. So I'm going to choose these blanks, and I thought there, oh, there it is, delete at the top. I can also edit in grid, so that works kind of like Excel, but I'm just going to choose them all and delete them all. And now I'm left with this one. So what I want to do now, this is kind of a weird, you can understand how a lot of times in Excel you would have a lot of columns, and this is why it's a better way to build it in Excel a lot of times. But I can also go into here, and I thought I could delete the column. Okay, if I want to delete these columns, then I go up to the gear, and I go list settings, and that'll give me all of the possible list settings. So for county, I click into county and I say delete, delete. I'm kind of running out of time here, but you can kind of see that you can really edit a lot of the details in here. And then I would go back in and I would add those columns as lookup columns. Um, so in the next video, we'll talk about how to use these lists in Power Apps and Power Automate.